Okay, so this is Trends Are Your Friends or Power Trends, because I kind of like to think of everything in terms of power. I'm obviously Michael Waxy Parnas. Okay, so everything herein is for educational purposes. Obviously, we're not licensed or registered. So what is a trend? A repeating historical tendency can work for many years. Some are very high percentage. Like the market itself, trends change over time. When I first started, there were trends that no longer are even remotely in play. The first trend I ever did was, or the first like trade really that I ever kind of came up with or developed. I bought calls on data broadcasting, DBCC I think was the ticker, and they were spinning off CBS Market Watch, okay? This was back in 99 or something, 98, 99, I don't know. And I had noticed that stocks that spun off pieces of themselves tended or trended to go up into the other IPO. Now, it does still happen on occasion now, but back then it happened a lot more, okay? It's happened actually a couple times this year, but you know, it doesn't happen nearly as much. So if that was my only trend, then I'd kind of be sitting here playing tiddlywinks or poker with you guys, and I would never have any trades to make. Some of our trends, and some of the ones that I like best, are the January effect. That's like my favorite, you know, yearly trend. Window dressing, which happens once every quarter. Earnings runners, we're in earnings season. Gaps, option expiration strike, which we're going to talk about and hopefully take some advantage of it. We'll see, we'll play it out the next couple of days. And the FOMC run-up. So it's January effect, the theory behind the trend. Fund managers often dump their biggest losers once we go past mid-year throughout much of the rest of the year. Similar to window dressing, they don't want to show they were stupid. So they, quote unquote, hide the evidence. And there's also tax-related selling to offset gains, right? So if we have a year, let's say this year ends or it gets towards the end of the year and we're kind of up the whatever we're up now, we're 8%, 9%, whatever it is on the year. But there's a bunch of losers, like let's say the banks right now, right? Well, fund managers are not going to want to show that they were dumb enough to own the banks all year, right? So they're going to sell them. They're going to get them off their books, right? Doesn't exist. Hey, I wasn't so dumb. So, and also, if they have gains in other areas, they probably want to offset some of those gains by selling their losers. Makes sense, right? We would all do that, right? We take write-offs, you know, we have a bad business decision, we invest some money, whatever it is, we've made money in other areas. It's smart, right, to write them off, right? So that's what they do. So the theory behind it is that at some point the tax loss selling abates, and so does the need for funds to dump their losers. Okay, there's a theory called the dogs of the Dow theory. I'm sure most of you have heard of it, right? Some of you? Anybody? Okay. It's a similar theory, but I find this much more powerful and shorter term. You'll know within 10 days if you win or lose, right? And most of us here want and like instant gratification, I notice. So it's a much better. And also the dogs of the Dow, you have to hold on and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, that theory is not something I play. It may work. You know, I just don't follow it and play it. It's not my kind of trading. Okay, so what's the trade? Typically, we start buying these around December 24th, shortly before Christmas, okay? Even though it's called the January effect, it starts end of December, okay? We sell on the 5th trading day of January. Now, some years that changes a little bit, but that my experience has been in the last few years, that's the day when almost to the day every year, it seems like that's the day we reach a near-term peak. Sometimes we pull back for a couple of days and then go even higher, or sometimes, you know, whatever, maybe the 4th day, whatever. But that's the day I kind of like to pin as like my target date to get out of this stuff, okay? And also, if we happen to be down which thankfully hasn't happened in a while, but if we happen to be down early in January, I want to have an exit strategy, and that's the day I typically want to exit. Window dressing. This is similar to the January effect, except opposite, meaning we are buying the best of the best for an end of quarter run. While fund managers rush to sell the losers, which sets up a bullish run on the worst performance, or the worst performers. In this trend, they buy the best of the best the last week of each quarter. So the theory behind this, fund managers don't like to look stupid. Same thing as January effect, right? We can see a pattern here. So they sell their biggest losers not to play for us and buy the best stocks to fake that they were smart enough to own them, so when new clients look at the stocks they own at the end of the quarter, they see how smart they are. Doesn't sound very ethical, does it? All right, but it does happen. It's kind of like, I don't know if anybody here is a real estate agent, and even if you are, I'm sure you would never do this, but it's kind of like having a false listing in a newspaper to show this really great apartment for $1,000 a month, right? Knowing that that apartment doesn't exist at $1,000 a month, but you're trying to get somebody in to look at other stuff you have, right? You know, there are many businesses where unfortunately people do those kind of things. Okay, so what's the play? Typically, we buy some of the best high beta performers of the current quarter and ride them for the last week of the quarter, usually 5 to 7 days. All right? Again, I like these kind of trades because they're short-term trades. It's the last week, so it's 5 to 7 days. Sometimes, recently, I've bought them a little bit sooner. It really depends on the tenor of the market. If you have a very bullish market environment, then you probably want to do it a little bit sooner. If you have a very bearish environment, then you probably want to wait as long as you can. I've done this trend literally like the last day of the quarter. You know, not knowing, but thinking the logic behind it is we've just completely sold, and now somebody's going to be buying something that performed well because they want to dress up their portfolio. Keep in mind, right, you still need to play by the money management rules, right? And you don't want to have 50 stocks that you're long all on because, wow, Waxy said that window dressing is really a cool trend, so I'm going to buy all 50 of these stocks. Well, but if it doesn't work, which does happen on occasion, I think it's happened when we were tracking it like 5 or 6 times out of, I don't know, 27 quarters or something. So, you know, but it does, there are times when it doesn't work. So, like anything else, so you don't want to be foolish enough to be redundant, right? When we talk about money management, if you own Apple for window dressing, you know, you probably don't need to buy Amazon, Google, and Baidu as well. So we sell them the last day or slightly before the quarter. We do not hold them into the next quarter typically, or at least I don't. That's not the trend. The trend is over after the last day of the quarter. Now, while you're doing this and you're owning those options or you're owning the stock, keep in mind you're also trailing as it goes if you are on the right side of the trade. And you also have stops. You're not just doing this and then like watching all your money go down the tube if the market tanks or there's some news or whatever. And also at the same time, if it starts running and you're going well and now you're up really nice, you still want to kind of take a little profit. You want to trail it. You know, I don't want to sit there and again turn nice winners into losers because I'm like, the last day, that's the day. Well, not necessarily. Maybe they decide to sell those stocks the day before. You know, maybe there's some bad news that comes. You know, you don't want to give up all your gains because you were trying to drain that last dollar.